Okay, so I'm still in Surat, Thani province near Khao Sok National Park, and I'm here at like a meditation center temple type of thing that shows a board with a cave. So I'm gonna go in the cave and check it out. I think there might be 2 caves, so I'll take you along on the journey, film the whole experience so that you know what it's like with location descriptions, and I'll give the name and everything like that.
On the way to the first cave, there is a statue of a monk, and then you'll find the Naga leading towards the first cave. So the name of this temple, meditation, cave complex, if I can call it that, is actually Nagathibodi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Nagathibodi is the name of this cave complex. So you make your way through this passageway into the first cave. That's kind of more like just an opening, and there's a small spirit house, and you'll hear the sound of the water dropping from the cave roof onto the sink roof of this spirit house. So it was raining a little bit, not too heavy, but enough for water to be dropping from the roof of the cave. I also saw an owl here in this part of the cave, which was something that I don't really see very often when I go to visit caves. Didn't see anyone else, and it seems like this first cave is used mostly for meditation, and so the steel gate was locked and I was not able to actually go past that big Buddha image that you can see at the back. And so I was just limited to this first room, if you can call it that. And the roof is about 20 meters if I have to take a guess. I actually dropped my microphone on the way there, didn't notice. And then by God's grace, I was able to find it. Nagathibodi is what's written there on the board in Thai. So there's these wooden steps that don't look very old, maybe not brand new, much better than some of the wooden stairs I've seen at other places. And there was these insects that you can see flying over here, so I had to carefully step aside so that they don't get stuck in my hair and in my face. So if you count the total amount of steps, I think it's probably about 40 steps, 40 to 50 steps of these wooden steps that lead you to the entrance of this cave. So it's a little bit of a climb, but nothing serious. And then we find the mouth or the entrance of this cave, where you then have to actually go down a little bit, not much, maybe 20 steps or so. So at this point I had to turn on my small little flashlight that I had with me, waterproof flashlight, so I didn't bring my main light that I usually use when I visit a cave. Halfway down the stairs I saw there's a donation box for electricity. So the white box that is against the wall is the switch for lights. I reached out to the box and I flipped on the lights, and nothing amazing, nothing spectacular. There was a couple of lights basically here and there, but not a big day and night difference. Definitely, in order to make a video, I would have to use my own flashlight. Remember, if you want to see more of the caves in Thailand, remember to like and subscribe and click the notification bell, as I'm making a whole series about the caves in Thailand, and there's just going to be many, probably hundreds of videos coming out about the caves in Thailand. So you don't want to miss that if caving is something that you're interested in, or just seeing what caves look like in general and you don't ever have the time or the courage to visit the caves. If you go down the stairs, you can see there's a little bit of a hole there, nothing significant and no real passage that you can enter. then we find this T-junction, if I can call it that, or a split in the cave, where you can go either left or right. There's a Buddha statue there on one of the main boulders that looks like it fell from the roof. The boulder, not the Buddha statue. And if you look carefully there where you see the light, there was actually an owl sitting there on the roof. You can pause the video and go back and you'll see the owl actually flying away. So I decided to go left first, down the stairs to this room. You might be able to hear the wind that's passing through the openings that we have in the cave. Then we find the very common 7-head Naga together with the male sitting over there, and we'll see this throughout the temple. You'll also see some bats flying every now and then. Not a major colony of bats, but definitely I could see bats here and there. So in this first room, I find a couple of these similar statues. The Naga is definitely something that's prominent in this cave. I won't call this cave a super wild cave. It is wild in the sense that it doesn't have nice paved roads everywhere in the cave, but definitely in this room in the cave it does have. But it has Buddha images and statues everywhere, so it is not completely wild, and not lots of stalagmites and stalactites, barely any in fact, and not lots of water. So you can see a passage there on the other side that has a pinkish light. And then here we find the bearded sage, I believe, with the Naga as well. So the Naga is definitely prominent, as it is in the name of this cave, Nagathibodi Cave. So I checked underneath for this passageway. There's no real a passage that goes down further or deeper there. That would be the end. It seems like they have ceremonies here every now and then, but when I went into the cave, there was no one. If you also listen carefully, you might hear the sound of bats, but also every now and then, I think you'll be able to hear the sound of the owl. So that was it for the first room. Then I made my way back to the split, the fork in the road, or the T-junction, if you can basically call it that. You can hear the wind once again and the owl sound right there.
So basically the first cave that is the closest to the temple, there isn't really much there. It's kind of closed off, as you can see in the video. Then you get to this second cave where you climb down the stairs that you can see there behind me. And then there's a switch for some lights. And you get to kind of like a T-junction where you have stairs that you can take down there, which is kind of where the lights are. And then there's another passageway over there that I'm going to go check out. But something that's really nice is behind me, on top of like a small wooden building structure thing, there's actually an owl. And I saw the owl flying out of the other cave when I was in there. And now it's sitting there on the roof, but I don't have a zoom lens, so I don't think I'll be able to get it, but I'll try to see how close I can get.
So then I continued down the path on the right side, and here it's not a cemented path, not as nice as the other room, the ground floor room, if we can call it that. So this, I would say, I would call it the upper floor or the second floor of the cave. So it starts with the Buddha image there on the top of the big boulder, and you can see that the path is mostly rubble, rocks, sand. Not super dangerous in my opinion, but it is possible to slip, to slide because of the sand. So it's not super firm, so we have to make sure that we are stepping on the rocks. And then it's a little bit of a climb up, nothing super serious. And it was on top there where I saw the owl, but the owl flew away when I entered into the cave. So there's a opening, basically an entrance to the cave, but you'll need ropes if you really want to enter from there. And there was this small spirit house where the owl was sitting on top of that roof, basically. But I doubt people come here very often. You can see some trees and some roots that have taken hold inside the cave, but it's a source of light for the cave and also the breeze, so you might be able to hear the wind. Then from this second floor, the passage then goes down, and it seems like it goes back down to the first floor or the ground floor of the cave, kind of like it makes a loop. So I decided to see if I can complete the loop, and I climbed down. If you have long legs, then it shouldn't be a challenge. If you have shorter legs, then you'll maybe have to sit down first and just slide down. So dry leaves, sand, sticks, that's basically the floor of the cave at this specific point. Then you can see there, basically we arrive at that point that we could see from the ground floor room, the Buddha statue with the pink light. On my right hand side, I saw a light, and then underneath the light there was a hole. So I took a look. I thought maybe this is a passage that will lead somewhere through a tight crawl maybe, but as I peeked in, maybe 3 or 4 meters down, and there's just a dead end. So I continued towards the Buddha statue that is probably a main attraction, especially from the first floor. And I could see that there is kind of a path that goes back down to the first floor. So there would basically be 2 ways to get to this Buddha statue. So I could see a wooden ladder there at the bottom, and I decided to take this road back. So if someone chooses to do that, they'll have to be a little bit careful, because it is a bit slippery because the ground is a little bit loose. So I had to take my time a little bit and be quite careful, since I don't want to drop any of my equipment that I'm using for this small, short, little exhibition. Once again, you might be able to hear the sound of the owl every now and then. And when I took a look down as I was making my way down the wooden ladder that isn't in the best of condition, it looks like it has had better days, I did see some feces of a bird, perhaps of the owl. I also saw a feather, and so that was really interesting for me, something I don't find often in the cave. Definitely the feather of the owl. And so I reached down and I grabbed the feather to keep it as a souvenir. And to add to this story, when I arrived back home a couple of days later, I went to a shopping mall, and there was an animal pet expo, and they had an owl on display, and it was the exact same type of owl as I encountered here in this cave. Definitely not every day that I get to see a cave in Thailand. Something more special, something more unique. So I appreciate that. From the second floor, when you climb down that wooden statue, you basically arrive behind the Naga statue with the sage, the man with the white beard. And then we're back to the first floor, and we can make our way to the fork in the road, or the splits, after we climb up a set of stairs. So that's basically the inside of this cave. I have tried to look online, but I have not found a map for this cave. I think from the entrance of the cave to the back of the cave, it would be maximum probably 100 meters, probably not even 100 meters, and it makes this loop. What makes the cave feel a little bit bigger would be the ceiling of the cave. That is a tall ceiling of the cave, but a beautiful cave, not many rock formations. It's a more simple cave, and definitely very devoted to the Buddhist religion, or dedicated to the Buddhist religion. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is episode number 1 of Caves in Thailand, Caves of Thailand series, and episode number 2 will be released soon. Thank you so much for joining us on our video. See you in the next one.